Hi, we're discussing the Koine Greek noun system. Now, Koine Greek was the language that was spoken from 300 BC to 330 AD. So nouns have three properties. These are the case, gender, and number. So every noun will have a stem and an ending when it is spelt. The case, gender, and number will determine on how the ending changes when it is spelt. So case, there are 5 different cases, and the case will determine the noun's function in the sentence. The first case is the nominative case, which describes the subject. Second is the accusative case, which describes the direct object. Third, the dative, which is the indirect object. Dative has other uses which describe location or who's the noun by or who's the noun for. For example, let's put those 3 together. Let's use the sentence, the man gives food to the cat. The man here is in the nominative, food is in the accusative, it's the direct subject. The cat is in the dative, it's the indirect object. Now the fourth case is the genitive, which is the possessor. It also has another use which describes the source of the noun. Let's use an example. Let's use the phrase, the wisdom of God. There's 2 nouns here, the wisdom. We don't know what case that is because I haven't completed the sentence, but the other noun is God, or of God. Well, this is in the genitive because whose wisdom is it? It's God's wisdom. God's wisdom being another way in English we can describe this phrase. Lastly, there's the vocative case, which is the noun of direct address. For example, if I say the sentence, guys, let's go out. Guys here is in the vocative. So why are these cases important? Well, in English, the word order matters for meaning of the sentence. But in Greek, the function of the noun is based on the ending of the noun, how it's spelt. This means that in Greek, when you write a sentence, your nouns can be in any order. So we need to look at the endings of the different nouns and identify which case it is to form meaning of the sentence. Next is gender. So there are 3 grammatical genders, masculine, feminine, and neuter. In English, we observe natural gender. For example, say a man is masculine, a girl is feminine, and the house is neuter. But in Greek, every noun has a gender. And while some of them follow the natural gender, for example, the Greek word for man is masculine, the Greek word for woman is feminine, they don't necessarily follow our 21st century Western way of thinking of what is masculine or feminine. These genders can be identified by noun endings. And lastly, there's number, which can be either singular or plural. For example, the man is singular, or the men, and that's plural. Now, putting it all together, every noun has a case, gender, and number, and this is identified by the noun's ending. Nouns can only have 1 gender, but they can have 5 different cases and 2 different numbers. This means that there are 10 different endings for each noun, which will determine its meaning. Now let's move on to these endings. So when a language has words that change slightly, this is called inflections. And the inflection of a noun is called a declension. Declension is just a fancy word for pattern. So there are 3 different declensions or patterns in Greek of nouns. So there are 3 different ways that the noun endings can be classified into. The first declension contains only masculine or feminine nouns, with the majority of them being feminine. In the singular, there are 3 feminine sub-patterns and 2 masculine sub-patterns, and this determines on the noun stem, which will then determine the endings due to pronunciation reasons. For example, the 3 different sub-patterns of the feminine nouns either end in an R sound, an air sound, or a hybrid form. And the masculine will follow the R sound or the air sound. Interestingly, in the plural, all the endings are the same for these 5 sub-patterns. The second declension contains 2 sub-patterns, the first being masculine and feminine nouns, which follow the same pattern, with the majority of these nouns being masculine. And the other pattern is for neuter nouns. The endings of these 2 forms are quite similar, apart from some of these cases. And lastly, there's the third declension, which has the widest variety of stems and noun endings. And there are around 30 or so different sub-patterns in this declension. So that's an overview of the Greek noun system.